My mother-in-law canceled my life-saving surgery behind my back, so I destroyed her life at her husband's retirement gala. The pain in my abdomen had been agonizing for months before the specialist finally found the tumor. I called my husband Rowan, barely able to breathe, and choked out that I needed the operation immediately. He rushed to the clinic, holding my hand as the surgeon explained the grueling road ahead, promising we would fight this together. We agreed to keep the terrifying diagnosis private until after the procedure. But Rowan's mother, Margot, always had her hands in our lives, including managing our mail and insurance portals because she insisted on helping us young folks. 3 days before I was supposed to go under the knife, the hospital called to confirm my cancellation. The receptionist casually mentioned that my mother-in-law had called, citing my severe medical anxiety, and claimed I had opted for holistic alternatives instead. I was completely paralyzed. When I confronted Margot in my kitchen, she just stood there, arranging flowers, and claimed she was protecting me from trauma. "You've been so hysterical lately," she cooed. "This is for your own good. Surgery is so drastic." That weekend, she invited the entire extended family over for what she called a healing circle. In front of 40 relatives, Margot stood up, dabbing her eyes, and announced that my mental health was rapidly deteriorating, and I was dangerously refusing modern medicine. People I barely knew started looking at me with intense pity. When the car ride home finally happened, I begged Rowan to defend me. He just sighed, gripping the steering wheel. He told me his mother was only trying to help, and that I was acting deeply paranoid. By Monday, he had moved into the guest room, leaving me completely isolated while my body was fighting a war. Desperate to escape the suffocating tension, I drove to their remote lake cabin to clear my head and pack a bag. While rummaging through Gerald's old oak desk for a phone charger, the bottom drawer jammed violently. I yanked it completely out and noticed a false panel hiding a thick, locked leather binder. My patience was entirely gone. I smashed the padlock with a heavy bronze paperweight. Inside were 7 years of forged wire transfers, doctored corporate tax returns, and offshore bank statements. Margot hadn't just been stealing from Gerald's lifelong construction firm. She and the family accountant had been siphoning hundreds of thousands of dollars to cover her catastrophic underground gambling debts. I sat on the dusty floor, taking crystal clear pictures of every single page. I brought the photographic evidence straight to Rowan that evening. He barely glanced at the glowing screen before throwing my phone onto the rug, accusing me of doctoring financial documents to ruin his mother out of spite. The very next morning, Margot cornered me in my own driveway. Her sweet, matronly facade vanished completely. She stepped into my personal space and whispered that if I breathed a single word about those accounts, she and the accountant would forge my signature on the next fraudulent transfer. "I will make sure you go to federal prison instead of a hospital," she hissed. She genuinely thought she had won because she had her son firmly on her side. But Gerald's massive industry retirement gala was happening that Friday. 300 investors, corporate partners, and family members were attending the downtown ballroom to celebrate his flawless corporate legacy. I arrived early, carrying a remarkably heavy canvas duffel bag. I didn't need a microphone or a dramatic slideshow to absolutely ruin her. I had spent 2 days at a local print shop, making crisp, high-quality copies of the most damning ledger pages, taking the time to highlight the stolen funds in bright yellow. While Margot was busy barking orders at the floral arrangers, I tipped the coat check staff generously to swap the extravagant corporate parting gift bags with my own custom folders, ensuring they were placed directly on every single dinner plate. As Margot eventually stood at the podium, weeping elegantly about her husband's unshakable integrity and their flawless financial stewardship, the guests began opening their folders. The confused murmurs started in the back row. Then, pure, unadulterated chaos erupted. Major investors stood up, their faces red with absolute fury, shouting across the tables. Gerald looked down at the highlighted wire transfer routing money to a Caribbean casino, and his commemorative glass of champagne slid from his hand, shattering loudly on the marble floor. Margot froze at the microphone, her mouth hanging open as the entire room aggressively turned on her. Rowan scrambled toward the stage, looking frantically between the ledger pages and his mother like a terrified child, realizing the monster was real. I didn't wait for the screaming match to reach its peak. I set my wedding band on a quiet cocktail table near the exit, pushed open the grand double doors, and walked out into the crisp evening air. I still had a grueling medical battle ahead of me, but as I hailed a cab in the dark, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt completely free.